On a controversial plan that could affect how you log on to the web. The Obama administration considering a move that would have the U.S. give up oversight of the domain registry of the Internet. It's currently controlled by the U.S. Commerce Department, but it could be handed over to an international agency. Former President Bill Clinton.
The United States has been by far the country most committed to keeping the Internet free and open and uninterrupted. And a lot of these people who say they want multi-stakeholder control over domain names and Internet access, what they really do is want the ability to shut down inconvenient exchanges within their own countries.
Basically, the United States that invented the Internet, with or without the help of Al Gore. So why give it up? Why give it up to some international body? Hasn't the Internet done just fine on its own?
I agree. Not only was it created by the United States, it was called ARPANET, developed by the Defense Department with U.S. tax dollars, and it should be in the hands of a representative democracy like the United States. Once we let it go, and ICANN, which now, I guess, hands out domain names, the plan was in place since 1998 to eventually cede power to some international body. We don't know what that body is, what it consists of. It's very vague about what the plans would be going forward, so it's a bad idea.
ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Jim, I don't know that anybody in this country is really aware that all of this is going on. I mean, Bill Clinton's pretty fired up about it. But the mainstream media are not covering it. Why?
No, there was a terrific piece in National Review by a fellow named Robert W. Patterson in which he said that, hey, conservatives, wake up. This is like the Panama Canal Treaty in the 70s. The few exceptions, like Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Tim Scott of South Carolina, have yet to wake up to realize that when even Alan Combs thinks it's a bad idea to give away the Internet to Iran and China and Russia and the PLO and so on, then it certainly ought to be a bad idea for Republicans to sit there and do nothing. They should be out there leading the charge against us. I think it would be a great political issue for them.
Just so we have this on record, Alan, you are in opposition to this move being made by the Obama administration to give up control over domain names on the Internet.
Could I just clear up some misconceptions?
Okay.
I always agree with Obama on everything. Often in these debates,
it's pretty unusual when that happens. I just want to get it on the record.
On my radio show, I disagree a lot. On these debates, I'm often paired with some pro and anti-Obama debate, but there are lots of. But the point is, yes, I do not agree with the Obama administration on that.
What are the dangers, Jim?
Well, I think, look, it's just every other time that the UN or some other international body gets a hold of something, whether it's human rights, where they wind up declaring the United States to be the big violator, not, say, Iran or China, or global warming, or arms control, or any number of other kind of environmental and social regulation, we wind up being controlled by some Uganda or some country in the third world somewhere that winds up writing our policy for us. It's crazy. It speaks to the desire, though, of some in the elite, especially on the Democratic side, to sort of give power away from the United States and turn it over to the world in some sort of gesture of good faith to the global community.
Now, on October 1st, we stand to lose, basically, control of the Internet. We stand to lose our free speech on the Internet. We've got to be aware of what's going on. Now, of course, in its place, things like Darknet or something like that would pop up, and of course we would end up trying to learn how to utilize that, and of course we'd try and teach everybody how to utilize that as well. If something drastic, this is a SHTF scenario with the Internet, were to take place.
Reporting that Ted Cruz and other Republicans are barreling towards a September showdown with the White House over its plan to give up oversight of the Internet as the Obama administration tries to rally support from the tech and telecom industries. They state here that GOP lawmakers have long warned that the administration's plan to relinquish its authority over ICANN, the global nonprofit that manages the Internet's domain name system, could give authoritarian countries like China and Russia an opening to make an online power grab. And I believe that to be absolutely true. President Obama is handing over the Internet, handing over the freedom of the Internet to an international organization where China and Russia have the potential to shut down websites is the worst possible thing you could do in a free society.
To hand over control of the internet to a global consortium, ICANN, ICANN, on October 1st. Opponents similarly made the case that Congress has passed legislation to prohibit the federal government from using tax dollars to allow the transition, and pointed out that the feds are constitutionally prohibited from transferring federal property without approval from Congress. A coalition of 25 advocacy groups like Americans for Tax Reform, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and Heritage Action sent a letter to Congress making those points last week. The Department of Commerce is set to hand off the final vestiges of American control over the internet to international authorities in less than 2 months. Officials have confirmed. Editor's note, without a doubt of any kind, the invention and release of the internet to the general public has been the single greatest economic advancement in human history. Barack Obama is willingly handing over American control of it to a faceless global entity, which has a board that includes Russia and China. And why? Because that global corporation that will now run it does not have a constitution which calls for freedom of speech for its citizens. That's why. The department will finalize the transition effective October 1st, Assistant Secretary Lawrence Strickling wrote on Tuesday, barring what he called any significant impediment. The move means the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, which is responsible for interpreting numerical addresses on the web to a readable language, will move from U.S. control to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, a multi-stakeholder body that includes countries like China and Russia. Critics of the move, most prominently Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz, have pointed out the agency could be used by totalitarian governments to shut down the web around the globe, either in whole or in part.
I'm starting to wonder if they're going to censor me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is something I came across recently that is very disconcerting. On September 30th, 2016, our internet will be transferred unless you say no. This is from Missouri Education Watchdog. Internet globalization agenda will quietly happen on September 30th, 2016. Imagine an internet where you cannot access certain sites such as news sites or Twitter, Google, or DNC leaks or Facebook. Imagine instead an internet that could be censored, like currently is the situation in China or Russia or Iran. Why would the U.S. transfer the oversight of our internet to countries outside the U.S.? Once control is abdicated and the Internet Authority is transferred out of U.S. borders, our U.S. laws, our U.S. Constitution, and guaranteed freedom of speech would no longer apply. Censorship-free Internet access is an American right, but perhaps not for long, especially critics say if the Internet will be under UN control. I think this has a lot to do with what's going on. I think that the plan is to transfer to a global authority, and like they say here, under that global authority, some of the rights that you take for granted, your rights of freedom of speech, you won't have them anymore. I'm not sure how this is going to, play out down the road, but clearly this whole thing about...
The FBI now busted forcing malware on innocent internet users. According to Sputnik News, they report that the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, has now filed a motion in a Maryland court asking for the FBI to justify its action of infecting the computers of thousands of innocent internet users in an operation against a single website hosting child pornography. They state here that in 2013, the FBI seized servers belonging to Freedom Hosting Network, or FHN, an ISP hosting a variety of websites only visible on the anonymous Tor network. They state that the servers were seized because child pornography was hosted on one of its websites, unbeknownst to the FHN. Now, NIT, they say, behaves much like malware, installing itself secretly without a user's knowledge. They write that an FBI warrant enabling the deployment of the NIT malware ran from the end of July 13th to August 5th on that year, 2013. Now, it says on August 4th, Tor mail users noticed that an email service website hosted on the same Freedom server attempted to install unwanted software later found to be similar to NIT used by the agency. Says here, Tor Mail, a free email service used by thousands, including activists and journalists, is not affiliated with the Tor project or pornography of any kind. Nonetheless, users were infected, according to the ACLU. So there you have it. The FBI taking some pretty dirty tactics to get into people's computers, collect data, and in some sort of investigation that doesn't even involve the people who are the target. So what are your thoughts? Comment below. Subscribe for updates. If you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up and share this report.
Exercise this summer called Jade Helm 15. While the military says it's just training soldiers for the realities of war, critics say the Army is preparing for modern-day martial law.
But now they're right.
It's happening.
When God become martial law, because it's even at the